I'm a gardener, and my gardening philosophy is it needs to be healthier and cheaper than what I can buy in the shops. I'm going to be growing cucumbers in these large plant boxes, and I'm also using compost that I made at home. I have playlists on TikTok and Instagram if you want to know how I've made my compost and also how I've made the plant boxes. But I also sell compost for 30 Rand a bag, and these large plant boxes are from 300 Rand. To save some money, I'm going to be using some sandy soil from an older plant box. Because I'm using old soil and homemade compost, I only had to use 2 bags of bought compost. So in total the cost came to 300 Rand for the plant box and 60 Rand for the 2 bags of compost. But if you were to do this just using bought soil, then you'd need to buy 7 bags of compost to fill this size plant box. If you're starting cucumber from seed, you're going to save more money in the long run. But if you're able to get cucumber in seedlings, you'll roughly pay 2 Rand to 4 Rand a plant, which is relatively cheap. These seeds were sown early October, and by end of October I was able to transplant. I definitely recommend buying seedlings if you have access to them. You'll just save a lot more time that way. I forgot to mention that I also added a half a bag of pine mulch. This will help with water retention and also maintaining the quality of the soil. This is obviously a large plant box, and if I wanted to just grow cucumbers in it, I could grow 8 plants like this in one of these plant boxes. So I'm going to divide my total cost so far by 8. A cucumber seed costs about 50 cents a seed, but let's just say I started them as seedlings, so it cost me 4 Rand. By the middle of December, the plant's growth seemed to slow down, so I gave it some fertilizer. Now, the fertilizer that I used is worm tea from my worm farm, so it didn't actually cost me anything to fertilize my plants. But if you were to use bought fertilizer, then it would cost you about 5 Rand per plant. The only meaningful cost that I'm not calculating is the cost of water to water this single plant. I don't know if you want me to take my rates bill and divide it by the number of plants that I have growing minus all the people that is in this house. It's just not gonna work out. But if you want, you can let me know in the comments how much water you think this plant took. In my opinion, the cost of watering this single plant is not significant at all. This cucumber is smaller and looks like this will be the last cucumber. So the 8th cucumber didn't form properly, but that's to be expected. The plant is now at the end of its life. It's 4 months old. That's very good for a cucumber plant. So over the 4 months I grew 7 cucumbers, which according to Pick n Pay is valued at 70 Rand. But the cost to grow those cucumbers cost me 75 Rand. So I'm at a 5 Rand loss. I could have brought my costs down by growing directly in ground, but because I can't do that, I had to grow in a plant box. Another thing to note is that I still have all my initial material, so I still have my plant box and I still have the soil inside it. The only thing I need to do now is move away the top layer of mulch and then give it a top dressing of a good quality compost, and then get new cucumber seedlings and keep growing more food. I'm using about 10 Rands worth of a good quality potting mix and then putting in 3 new cucumber plants, which brings my costs down to 22 Rand this time around. If you've made it this far into the video, I hope you understand that the initial cost of starting a garden might be high, but you'll have a good return on investment if you continue to grow more food.